I think the problem in many ways for Bosnia and many other countries is the misuse of those victims and survivors and their stories and their suffering to gain political points, when in fact it should be about them speaking as to what happened to them and there being some way of dealing with the issues they face so that there is justice. And what justice looks like is open to question, because justice can be court procedures and practice, which I worked on in this very city and in other parts of Bosnia, but it could also be that it's something else. It's another form of justice. And if you look around the world, there are other forms of justice procedures, whether it be truth and reconciliation commissions or traditional forms of justice. I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all area, if you will. To collect all this evidence, to store it, and then to process is an enormous task. And then trying to do that while a conflict is ongoing. And in fact, if you know, the rate of attacks in Ukraine has increased exponentially over the last several months. And therefore it's very, very difficult. So a lot has been done, but to quote a famous Irish election poster, a lot done, more to do. And that's not to say what has been done isn't sufficient. It is, but there's so much more to do, unfortunately. A lot of the cases involve moving very close to the front line, which are under enormous daily attacks. And then also when you're dealing with witnesses, you have an awful lot of witness trauma. You know, that's again, unfortunately, not unusual in the case of present and previous conflicts. Bosnia has an enormous amount of experience in this. So that's also a problem. And furthermore, you have an awful lot of people who've left Ukraine. And again, that's very similar to what happened in the Western Balkans in the past, where you had vast outflows of people, including victims and survivors, and therefore gathering the evidence from them is a further challenge. So, and then of course, the other issue is the fact of how are we going to get these people, these accused persons, into courtrooms? And that's a big question. That was a big question here. And that will be a bigger question, I think, unfortunately, for Ukraine because of the fact that the participants or the accused persons rather, are Russians. And the thing that was very clear when we talked to the prosecutors and the investigators here across Bosnia and Herzegovina was the most important thing is gathering the evidence. You know, it's a very simple thing, and it almost sounds a bit trite to say it, but without the evidence, you have nothing. So you can have all the highfalutin legal theories you want, but if you don't have evidence, you have nothing. So that is really, really important. I also think another important facet that was very successfully done in Bosnia compared to other scenarios is the importance of not just training the prosecutors and investigators, but also empowering the defense lawyers and the judiciary. Because for a system to work properly, you have to have skilled people in all the various parts. And defending people accused of terrible atrocities is not the most popular of jobs. But without it, you have real problems, because then there will be zero faith in the process and you won't comply with the basic precepts of the rule of law.